Welcome to another episode of Amplify Your Business. Today, I'm going to be talking to Michelle Daides. She is the CEO, producer, director. Well, she does everything really at MD Media Inc. out of the Toronto region. And so welcome to the show, Michelle.
Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here.
I am so excited to be talking to another person that's in the video space because I talk to all sorts of other entrepreneurs, but for some reason, I don't ever think about just bringing on some other video people. And because the origins of Amplomedia was in video, I think we're just going to have a really great and fun conversation today.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's start though at the root of the business. So when did you start this business and why, I guess? Where did the impetus for this come from?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we actually started in 2003, and it was a bit of a crazy story where I was working in product placement. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's a company that basically places products, almost like sponsored products in television and film. So Coca-Cola, for example, was one of our clients. We would place it in Jerry Seinfeld's hands. If anyone knows who Jerry Seinfeld is, I'm dating myself. But that's where I started, and always had an acting, film, and television background. Grew up in a family of entrepreneurs, watched my dad, and I always was the kid who was hustling like the lemonade stands, the paper routes. Like I was that kid. I was always selling something.
Yeah.
And I met this woman randomly, and I jump without a net often. And she was like, "Hey, you want to start a business?" And I was like, "Okay." So we started a business. And primarily when we first started, it was publicity and marketing, because that was what I was doing at the time.
Yeah.
And so that was a company, and we built this publicity and marketing company. And one of the struggles with entrepreneurs is sometimes, unfortunately, things don't work out. So our partnership, unfortunately, didn't work out. I retained some of the clients, she kept some of hers, and then I started MD Media Inc. in 2003, primarily as a public relations and marketing firm. So that went on for 10 years. And I was getting burnt out. So I used to promote a lot of HGTV and Food Network properties. And I was getting really burnt out and kind of bored. And I had this background in film and TV. And I was like, how do I monetize and do the video thing full time, where I get to be creative and excited and passionate about what I do? And about 10 years ago, I shifted the company to video production and marketing. And then here we are.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. And I like what you said that sometimes in entrepreneurship, we end up, things don't quite work out. And that's really, truly what I found now interviewing, 120 or so entrepreneurs for the show is this resiliency that everybody has, the successful entrepreneurs. And so you kind of bounce into the thing that you're meant to be eventually, it seems like. And so the starting point doesn't really matter. It's where the ending point is. And obviously you found some great success. So I'm so happy for that. Now, in terms of the video business itself, and there's just the state of video marketing, what are you guys finding out in Toronto? I'm in Edmonton, and so we're talking about more Eastern Canada and Western Canada. So I'm just really interested. Is there any parallels going on? So the state of video and video marketing out there, what would you say?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I love hilarious because it's so funny. Because us in Toronto, we think that we're central, but then we're Eastern, so Western. But anyways, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
I think the pandemic really opened people's eyes in terms of video.
Mm.
And, you and I both know that video is the number one sales and marketing tool, bar none. It cuts through the noise, all that stuff, but it's how you leverage it. But the pandemic really put video at the forefront, because that was the only way that we were communicating. We couldn't meet in person. So how are you going to connect with clients? So never mind professional video, as we're doing right now, where people are meeting on Zoom or what other online chat platform. So there's definitely been a push and an understanding, I would say. So people learned very quickly how important video is. So there is definitely a demand. And you definitely see businesses putting video at the top of their priority list in terms of marketing.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I remember in the early days, so our company isn't as old as yours is. We're just finished our decade, I guess, last October. So getting close to 11 years, I suppose. And in those early days, you had to really convince somebody that video was a good tactic, that this was a better way to kind of communicate whatever it was that they were communicating. And so most of my efforts at that point was just trying to kind of educate them on the benefits of video. Now it seems like everybody understands the benefits of video. And so that part of it isn't difficult. But what has been somewhat difficult is now there's so many other people, like with these smart devices. I mean, these are better cameras on these things nowadays than what we had, at the start with our camera gear, our professional stuff almost, right? Like it's incredible what people can produce. And so they have the power and the ability, and they've been playing around with it because now, we're multiple years into TikTok and Instagram and so on. And so especially with the younger generation, I'm finding that it's a little bit more difficult to position ourselves in the marketplace sometimes because kind of everybody's a competitor now.
Yeah, and that's a good point. So there's a ton of competition, and I would say in Eastern Canada, even more saturated than Western Canada, but that's okay. So, again, anyone can create video. We all know that. You have a phone, you're a filmmaker. That's totally cool. But the whole point is who is seeing the video? Like how many eyeballs, engagement, return. So that's the part where you hire a video agency or video firm like yours or mine. There's the strategy, there's the thought process of what kind of video is going to resonate best for your audience so that you are able to convert and that investment is actually worth something.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially the messaging within the video, right? So not all videos are created equally. The production could be just unbelievable, but it really comes down to, okay, well, what is actually being said and how is that person or the product being communicated, right? How are they describing what it is that they do in a way that really compels somebody who's watching it to act? Because at the end of the day, that's what we need is action from that, right?
Exactly.
So now, how do you do that? Like, do you do a lot of coaching then with your customers on, how they should be on camera, what they should be saying and stuff? What's your approach to that?
Yeah, that's sort of a two-part question. So yes, the strategy, we sort of give them an overview of what they should do with that video. But before we even, have the final product, one of the most important things that I always say to clients, the pre-production is, so let's start with pre-production is the heaviest lifting. So with that, we give them a worksheet that they work through and we talk about their goals. We talk about their clients. We talk about where these things need to go. And we do all that. We do the strategy before we even film. We need to figure everything out so that we're really making sure that we're setting this video or videos up for success. And then once that sort of heavy lifting is done and we figure out all the logistics and all that fun stuff, then we show up on production day and everything's seamless. But I won't say seamless totally, because I would say 9 times out of 10, whether it's a CEO to another brand spokesperson, unless you have a background in acting, one, don't expect to feel comfortable in front of the lens, but generally people are terrified the minute that light goes on, the minute that camera gets turned on. They might be an eloquent speaker, as you know, but the minute that camera gets turned on, it's a whole other story.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So
Or not only when the camera gets turned on, but I also find as soon as somebody says, cut, right? As soon as it's done, then all of a sudden they just relax. And then the magical moments happen. And so I don't know about you guys, but we just keep the camera rolling. So we'll be like, cut. And then the videographer is not allowed to turn off the camera. Just leave it rolling, because that seems to be where the gold comes from. And it's just that, okay, I'm done now. Now their answers are just way different. It's way more relaxed. It's more conversational. It's more impactful. Do you guys do something similar over there too?
Absolutely. Yeah, we definitely leave the camera running because that's exactly it. So the minute you hear the cut, they're like, their shoulders come down and they're like, oh, that was hard. And then they're like, oh, but I should have said this. And then they get into their own story and da da da. And then like, oh, well, that's what we needed. And well, we got it. Or we didn't. Sometimes we don't always get it, but we'll do it
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things or differentiators we do at our company is we do on-camera coaching. So that's been really helpful to clients. Again, because people get freaked out. It's not easy. Like, again, you look at TikTokers and it's not easy. So we help them prepare by writing out their key messages and, doing a ton of different, breathing work and relaxing and practicing and really getting into that headspace that they can do it and they can do it with ease.
That's beautiful. We don't do that. Not much. I mean, at the time, we will give them coaching and stuff, once we kind of determine what level they're going to be at. And so we need to be doing a much better job than what we currently do, for sure. So I love the fact that you're doing that, because it is so, so important. And something that I don't have that acting background. I don't have the educational background actually in video. And so that's something that maybe I'm missing a little bit. So when you're doing that coaching for them, and actually, I'm going to take this slightly in a different direction, because I know some people want to use a teleprompter as a bit of a crutch. And so we do offer that. We try to discourage it as much as possible, because it doesn't seem like it comes across nearly as well. Do you do training on that part of it? Do you use teleprompters, or is this like, no, you're going to have to friggin' nail this, and we're going to teach you how to nail it without a teleprompter? What's your opinion on that?
Amazing question. And teleprompters are they're there as, and I do call them a crutch.
Yeah.
So they are great in some senses. So again, if you're a seasoned person that does video often and you're comfortable, I would say you're allowed to use the teleprompter, and that's only for efficiency's sake. So for example, when I shoot my own videos to market my own business, I'll use the teleprompter just because otherwise it takes me like twice the time if I don't have one.
Yeah.
Versus I'll give you, I think it was, 3 months ago, we shot a series of videos. We did 5 in an hour just because I was reading and just bang, bang, bang fast.
Yeah.
But it does become a crutch. It becomes very programmed. It becomes very robotic, not necessarily authentic or sincere. So the way we do it is we structure a bunch of questions that draw out your key messages so that you're answering authentically. I'll also give you another quick example. On the weekend, we were filming with a naturopathic doctor in clinic, and she was very technical and very clinical. And she really wanted that teleprompter, and she wrote out, she spent so much time writing her script out and everything. And I was like, you need to throw this out the window. And she's like, what? I was like, you need to throw this out the window. Let's just talk about your passion and why you love helping patients. And when we just sat and talked with the camera on, it was the best video we could have created versus that really clinical script and
really stiff.
Really stiff. So we use that kind of as like the backup plan. If someone's really, really struggling and we need to do it, we'll do it, or we do a combination of both. But I don't know, again, unless you're like on the news and you need to go at a certain pace, a teleprompter, like that's a whole other skill set, because there's a pacing, because you need to know how to read at a certain pace, and you got to watch that your eyes aren't going back and forth. So there's like a whole other learning that is involved with teleprompters.
Yeah. Well, and a newscaster can sit there and be somewhat stiff. The anchor of the news is okay. But when you're trying to actually draw the viewer into a story, and that's usually what we're doing, we're storytellers, it's really difficult to draw them in when you have somebody really stiff and just looking at the lens and just talking like this, right? Like they lose the inflection even in their voice. They don't have the body language. They're not moving their upper body at all. And it just, it just comes across so stiff. What I also find too, and I don't know if you find this as well, but I tell my clients, like, I don't want you to script out what it is that you're going to say. I want you to just think in terms of like you said, like, here's a question set that we're going to use to tease out the key messages. It's good for you to come prepared. So, bullet point a few of those things. but don't try to write it out, because then your brain wants to try to get it exactly what it is. And so it's searching for that word sequence, because when you crafted it on paper, it was just perfect, that, you got it right down exactly the way you wanted it. And so then the mind is searching for that as you're trying to kind of retell it when you're on camera. So I just say, like, just bullet point the key things, just so I know what you're wanting to say for each one of these. And so if we don't capture that, we're going to be able to then, do another take or whatever, and we'll get it, make sure that we get it all in that. But it's the essence of the message. It's not exactly those words when we're talking about video.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We do the exact same thing. We either say, write it down, or even get a whiteboard.
Yeah.
I usually suggest 3 points per question.
Yeah.
But yeah, once you start, but again, I was dealing with a naturopathic doctor who's type A, love her, amazing client, and I get it, but sometimes they get stuck because they feel like they need to be perfect. And you don't have to be perfect, because it's the moments when you're speaking from the heart that are the gold, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so what trends should we be aware of, or businesses? So the audience here are entrepreneurs. They're trying to figure out what to do in their businesses. They want to incorporate video, hopefully. And so if that's the case, what kind of trends, what kind of things should they be, looking to produce, I guess, from a video perspective, in your mind?
Yeah. So I don't want to say it's a trend, but it's a tip, is frequency, right? Is to try and create content on a regular basis, whether it's professional or you shoot it yourself, that's totally fine too. But to try and do it on a semi-regular. And if you don't have the means to do it on a semi-regular, figure out a strategy where you can leverage the pieces of content in your existing library and know that you can post it multiple times. We're fighting against algorithms all the time. So the more you're posting, the more you're going to reach different, potential clients, different audience. So do that. There's a big trend. So back to trends in the shorts. So whether it's a reel, YouTube short, TikTok video, so consumable, quick content, educational content, tips, that is the most important, where you can offer value, you can offer teaching to potential clients. They're going to trust you. That's what we consume. We also want to always think about captioning videos, because people are often scrolling in places like a doctor's office or on the bus or wherever they are. They might not be able to have the sound on. So you want to caption as well, so that if they're not, sound on, they're able to watch your videos. There are so many trends I can talk, I am such an advocate for video. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that the tips that you outlined are great ones. The other thing that I would say, just from a tip standpoint, is when you think through what kind of content you should be creating, you should be looking at it through the eyes of your buyer and the journey that they take to purchase your product or service. And so everybody goes on the exact same buyer's journey, regardless of whatever it is that they're buying. A pen, it's the same as buying a car, if you believe it or not. The difference, though, is that you'll go through the steps of the buyer's journey way more quickly when you're picking out a pen or a pencil than what you are when you're buying a car, because you spend a little bit more time in the bottom part of the funnel as a buyer. So that's in the consideration analysis stage, when you're really trying to figure out, is this the best car? Is this the right car for me? Is this the best deal? Is it providing me the right value or whatever? And when it is with a pencil, it's like, you identify that you have a need, and is it mechanical or not mechanical? It's pretty much as complex as it's going to get. And so then you pick the one and you go and execute on that purchase. But there's the same kind of content is required at every one of those stages. You just have to make sure that you're positioning it in front of them at the right time. And so that's what I encourage people to do, is think through and go, okay, well, what am I going to use for awareness? What am I going to use for consideration and analysis? And then how do I really take it home and get that close, get the sale? And then you start to craft videos then that are going to fit into each one of those stages. And so that's the biggest, I guess, tip or advice I could give for people who are trying to think through, well, what do I create and how do I use the video? Is use it in that kind of a sequence and think of it through the eyes of your buyer. What are your thoughts on testimonial videos? I'm just curious to throw that out as one, because I'm a huge fan of testimonial videos, and I think that it's one of the most underutilized types of videos that that our businesses could be using.
I totally 100% agree with you. Third party endorsements, like that's how, if you think about it, when we type whatever pencils, we use pencils, the best pencil in Toronto or the best pencil in Edmonton or whatever it is, we look at those Google reviews. We look at what people are saying about those pencils. So it's the same thing with testimonials. We want to hear it from somebody else's voice. We want to hear that recommendation. And 100%, I agree with you. They're totally underutilized, and they can build your business up so easily and quickly because of that credibility piece. So I definitely think, as a strategy, every business, if allowed, because back to that naturopathic example, their regulatory body doesn't allow testimonial videos. So it just depends. But if you can use it, use it.
Yeah, I agree. Like, there's just so powerful. You get the social proof, you get the endorsement, like you said. And the thing that I love about it, again, and this would be something that you and all of your experience would be able to really help your clients with, is the crafting of that testimonial. And so what I find, a lot of people, when I say, hey, do you have any testimonials? They'll be like, yeah, like so-and-so, gave me a written one, or so-and-so maybe even turned the camera on themselves and recorded one. And so then you read it or you listen to it, and it's like, well, that's great. It's going back to the pencil example. It's like this is the best pencil I've ever used. And it's like, well, that's a great endorsement. However, it doesn't really handle any of the potential objections that somebody has. And so if you can dual purpose it and really weave that messaging into it as well, that's going to really help out. And so going back to the pencil example, it's like, okay, so what is one of the potential objections? So maybe it's a really fancy high-end mechanical one. And so it's talking about, the clicking mechanism is just really smooth, and it doesn't create a noise, and the lead doesn't keep breaking off or something like that, right? And so if the testimonial could actually speak to those features, but turn it into the benefit and the reason why they purchased it, or why they're so bloody happy about having this pencil, that experience, that's going to be way more valuable than just saying, hey, it's a great pencil, my favorite pencil, right? So it's all about trying to craft that message properly within the testimonial, I think, as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, okay. So one of the trends everybody's talking about, has been talking about for the last couple of years, is TikTok. So what's the story on TikTok? How can businesses use it? What's your take on it? Are you guys cranking out TikToks for clients? We really aren't. We're finding it very difficult to do that for our clients. And nobody wants to see me dance. So how do you guys tackle that, or are you tackling it? What are your thoughts on TikTok?
I think TikTok is definitely an underutilized platform, but at the same token, it is a time suck of a platform from an audience perspective and a creator perspective. You need a lot of time and resources. So in terms of whether we're doing it for clients, here and there, not as frequently as perhaps we should. And from an agency perspective, we've done a few, but again, because of the resources and just, I haven't danced yet. So maybe if I start dancing, then we'll totally change our strategy. But it's something that I have seen value when I've looked at product-based businesses, or, again, the educational part, which I was mentioning, is if you can offer tips or some kind of how-to, those are the trending videos on TikTok. And TikTok has an algorithm. They're trying to push like the creator aspect. So like learn on TikTok is a very popular hashtag that their algorithms push to the top. So if you can offer some kind of how to, whatever it is, how to write cursive with a pencil, then, and you hashtag it learn on TikTok, or there's a few different ones where you put learn, that'll push forward. So yes, it's something that is in our horizon. Are we fully utilizing it for us and our clients? No, but it is definitely on that objective and goal list.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I love what you're talking about in terms of the education piece of it, because a lot of people just think of TikTok as just like pure entertainment. So the dancing and the songs and all of the memes that are out there. And those go viral and are really interesting and fun to watch and so on. But there is a huge educational component to it, a huge thought leadership aspect to TikTok, that a lot of people are actually leveraging that tool to get in front of people that they couldn't reach otherwise. And so, as an example, I was listening to a podcast where they were interviewing a financial an investor advisor, basically. And so what she was doing is she was using TikTok as a platform for educating people on how to invest and how to manage their money better. And it was extremely educational. Now, she had a personality too, which had a little bit of entertainment value to it, and she was like really blunt and straight to the point and so on. And so that was just her shtick, sort of. But it's her giving investing advice on TikTok, right? So there's so many businesses out there that you could be leveraging that tool so much better. We don't do a good job of it either. And so that's something that I'm tasking my team with, trying to figure that out as to how can we better support businesses in that, because there is so much opportunity. And again, it's one of those platforms where it's like, yeah, like there's enough going on there where you kind of have to start thinking about being on it, I think.
Maybe we need to do a duet and dare ourselves. Maybe we need to do a collective duet or collective dance, and then we'll get the energy and the inspiration.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think it would be shared for the wrong purpose or wrong reason if you included me in that. But hey, that might be like, what do they say? Like, no press is bad press, kind of thing, right? So yeah.
Or the dare to you.
Yeah, that's right. So anything else that you want to talk about in terms of video? Is there anything that you think people should be aware of or should be thinking about as they're going down that journey?
Just that it needs to be part of everybody's marketing strategies. Otherwise, in all honesty, you're going to be left behind. Video is here to stay. Video has been around for forever, and it's at the forefront now. And it's the best tool to explain and showcase your product or service. There's no other way. So just do it.
Okay, so just going back to your business, I would just love to hear when you decided to pivot into more of the video company. If somebody were to just like gift you $1 million right at that moment, and you can use that only in your business, so you can't just go off and have a good time in Tahiti or something. So what would you have done differently with your business as an entrepreneur if you had a bunch of money? Or is there anything that you would have done differently at the beginning there if you had that infusion?
That's a really good question. I think I would have brought on a team a lot sooner, because again, with growth, you need to have bodies to help you and a team.
Yep.
I also think I maybe would have scaled up the production level, because obviously with money, but yeah. I also dabble in a bit of film and television as well. So I know it's not exactly the business, but it is. But I would have loved to have done maybe more documentaries, because I have a documentary background, or that kind of thing. So more of, I think the creative piece would have been, so I'm allowing the personal freedom, since there's no objection, because I'm financed from the $1 Million Ferry. I don't have to worry about anything.
That's right.
I can create my own projects.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you were saying documentaries because so we sponsor the Edmonton Film Festival here, International Film Festival. And so I get to, go and I love going to it and watching a bunch of the films and stuff. And there's crazy stuff that people produce. And I'm just so inspired by it because it's like, I just don't understand where that idea even came from, let alone how you executed on it, which is just fascinating. But then the documentaries really fascinate me too, all these independent documentary makers. And man, after watching a couple of those this last year at the festival, I was just like, I'm making a documentary. There's this like, I got to do this because just seems so interesting. And it's kind of like what we're doing here through the show is we're documenting people's stories, their entrepreneurial journey and so on. But to go off and actually do that with a film crew and travel some places and do some really cool things, that would just be a dream for me. So yeah, if I had that $1 million ferry, I would definitely be doing a lot of that stuff that I really want to do as well. I'm curious, and this will be our last question just because I know we're running out of time, but I could talk to you forever here.
Sure.
But I'm really curious about the entrepreneurial lifestyle, right? So there's pros and cons and to it, as we all know, as business owners. There's some things that I would just never give up, and there's some things where it's like, oh my God, like why am I doing this? What for you do you find so difficult or most difficult about the entrepreneurial lifestyle?
Yeah, I had to take a deep breath with that one. I think there are days where the motivation, like, so every day you have to wake up and you have to kick yourself in the butt. Because if you don't work and if you don't, I don't want to use the word hustle, but if you don't, um, the same way, someone's working at a regular job, they have a paycheck. So unless you're getting up and knowing that you're selling, because you need to know how to sell as an entrepreneur and business owner, otherwise you don't have a business. And selling for most people is like the most wretched thing you could do. So
Yes.
waking up for that motivation to sell every day sometimes is a little difficult. So it's kicking yourself in the butt and, self-talking and I can do this and da da da. So that's sometimes hard. And sometimes when you're an entrepreneur, it does get a bit lonely unless you have a community or like-minded people to talk to and bounce ideas off of. Because sometimes, again, even though you may have a team, generally, if you don't have a partner, it's an army of one.
Yeah.
So it's figuring out, is this the right thing to do? Am I doing the right thing? So I've found joining communities or things called mastermind. I don't know if you know what that is, but
Yep.
joining like-minded business owners to bounce ideas off of, because you have to know, like, am I crazy? Is this the right thing?
Yeah.
And then trying to, I think for me, to be honest, and I really hate that I'm saying this, but it's the absolute truth. The biggest struggle for me, and I'm grateful, I'm coming from a place of gratitude, has been because I have a family. I have 2 young boys. The hardest thing has been the balance of the household and the business. And how do you figure that out? I
Yeah.
had my business before I had kids. It looked a lot different than it does now.
Yeah.
So that's been a bit of a struggle, but it's great too, because don't get me wrong, as an entrepreneur, it allows me the time to say, you know what, because I am my own boss, I can run out and do X, Y, and Z or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
those struggles.
Yeah, completely. And this is one of the things that people will sometimes just look at one side of that equation, because there is 2 sides to that. So yeah, like I'm working in the evenings a lot at home trying to finish things up. My work blends into my personal time because there isn't a hard delineation there. I've tried to make it that, but it's really difficult to do that all the time anyway. But the flip side of that is, yeah, like I can take the morning off and go in and go on that field trip with my son's grade 2 class when he was in grade 2, right? I can pick him up from school at the end of his day. The same thing with regard to the after school activities and all those different things where you wouldn't have been able to maybe do that. So as much as I don't like the bleeding into the personal time sometimes. The flexibility I get is just, it's too much. I wouldn't want to give that up. So So yeah, I really appreciate the fact that you touched on that. One of the things for me, from a lifestyle standpoint, I hate the part that just bugs the hell out of me from an entrepreneur's perspective is we're the last ones to get paid. Right? Like
Yes.
you're paying everybody else.
Yes.
You're working, you're wearing many hats oftentimes and you're trying to do all these different things. And then at the end of it, it's like, okay, what's left over? Hopefully there's something here for me. Yeah.
100%. Oh my gosh, you nailed it. Absolutely. One last thing I'm going to throw your way,
Oh,
because I'm
okay.
going to flip it on you. So this is my favorite question, and it sort of delves into what we just spoke about, which is, what's your definition of success?
Oh, that's a really, really good question. So my definition of success would be, did I help somebody? Did I help a business? Did I help the people within that business achieve the potential that they have? And so when I left working for the man, so to speak, I started a strategy company because I wanted to help businesses who wanted to implement better strategy. And the whole idea there was just there's so many businesses out there that really struggle with different things. If I could just help them with one thing or help shift that strategy a little bit, then they could potentially realize the success that they have right there sitting in front of them potentially. So that's, for me, my success is did I help people? That's a huge, huge one. And a big mantra here at Amplomedia, a big value that we have is to serve first. So that's what we do in a lot of different ways. Yeah, that's dear to my heart. What about you? What's your definition of success?
It's an interesting one, because years ago I was at a wedding and a big executive producer was sitting beside me, and she actually asked me that question. And had all these lofty things as I was young, and and it was basically business related. And she said to me, years down the road, when that day comes and, you have your tombstone, what do they write on tombstones? Like, do they write successful entrepreneur, business, or do they write mother, sister, father, beloved, whatever it is? So it's interesting. It was an interesting sort of eye opener. So I like what she said, but I feel like you can do it all. So I feel like it's like, again, helpful and driven entrepreneur to, devoted wife and dedicated mother or something like that. but I'm hoping you can do it all.
Yeah. I think you can. Like, I don't think that there is any reason why you can't, especially if you're following your passion and your purpose. I think, that's it's an interesting struggle, I think, for a lot of people and a lot of entrepreneurs. And I think I might actually borrow that question for some future interviews because I am curious to see how other people respond to that. It's really interesting. I don't know, like, success is just it's interesting and different for everybody. Everybody has a different way of measuring that, I think. But at the end of the day, if you can, wake up in the morning excited about what is in front of you that day and go to bed content with what you were able to do that day, and that you had an impact on people. I think that is just the biggest success. And that gets back to that tombstone. I mean, the things that you talked about is actually that, right? That
Absolutely
made a difference in people's lives. You were there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Okay, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time that you spent with us here today, Michelle. This is definitely one of my favorite episodes, just to talk about entrepreneurship and video all mashed into the same conversation. So that's really cool. And so for those of you out there who really like this episode, if you want to check out some other episodes, they're all over at amplifyyourbusiness.ca. And if you prefer to be listening to this, if you're not already listening to this, we are now available on all the major podcast platforms. And so you can just search for Amplify Your Business in any of your favorite podcasting platforms. And hopefully you'll be able to find lots of great content out there from us and our entrepreneurs that we talk to. So until the next time, I guess everybody have a prosperous day. And thank you again. I really appreciate your time today, Michelle.
Thank you so much for having me.